What if I told you that the fastest way to money is to stop chasing it? That after one simple shift, you don't need to struggle, hustle, or overthink, because wealth begins to flow on its own. Stay with me, because today you'll discover the sacred secret of doing nothing and receiving everything. Money flows when resistance is released. Most people believe that wealth comes through constant effort, relentless work, and the tightening of every nerve to reach for more. Yet what they do not realize is that resistance itself is the invisible wall that keeps abundance locked out. When the mind is tangled in fear, when the heart is anxious about tomorrow, when every thought is colored with worry, then no matter how hard the hands labor, money cannot flow. It is as though one is standing at the riverbank, trying to catch water with clenched fists. The tighter the grip, the less water remains. To release resistance is to open the hand, to let go of fear, to allow the current of life to move in its own perfect way. This is the secret that so few understand. The world trains us to push, to force, to demand, to hustle, as though wealth is some stubborn door that only yields to endless knocking. But in truth, the treasure is already ours. It lies in the unseen, waiting for permission to appear. That permission is not given through strain, but through surrender. The moment one surrenders resistance, the doors open. The unseen begins to take shape in visible form. Opportunities that were once blocked appear as if from nowhere. The call comes, the offer arrives, the path clears. It is not chance, it is law. For the law responds not to fear, but to faith. When the heart rests, the law begins its work. Money flows when resistance is released, because resistance is simply the belief that one must do it all alone. Resistance whispers, "It is too hard, it is too late, it is too much." But faith declares, "It is already mine." Resistance looks at the evidence and trembles. Faith looks at the unseen and smiles. Resistance builds walls with doubt. Faith opens doors with confidence. Think of the river. When left alone, it moves effortlessly, carrying everything along its path. But if one places boulders in its way, the water is forced to split, to scatter, to struggle for passage. The flow is hindered, though the river itself is full. So it is with money. The supply is infinite, the current constant, but resistance places stones of doubt and dams of fear in its path. Remove them, and the flow returns at once. One may ask, how does one release resistance? The answer is simple: by changing thought. The mind that clings to lack must be trained to rest in abundance. The lips that speak of not enough must be taught to declare plenty. The heart that trembles at bills must be steadied with words of provision. It is not outer striving, but inner shifting that brings the change. Each time you say, "I do not know how, but I know it is done," you are loosening resistance. Each time you choose peace instead of panic, you are clearing the way. Each time you bless instead of curse, you are stepping into flow. Resistance is nothing more than an argument against the good that is already yours. When you stop arguing, the good rushes in. Money flows when resistance is released, because wealth responds to freedom, not fear. It cannot be forced into a clenched mind. It cannot be captured by a desperate grasp. It comes as naturally as air to the lungs when the breath is allowed. It comes as surely as the tide when the moon calls. Money is an obedient servant, but it is delayed by a master who doubts. Release the doubt, and the servant rushes forward to fulfill its task. The great mistake is believing that doing more is the answer. One can work without end and yet see little fruit because the invisible resistance has not been broken. Another can rest, speak prosperity once, and live in expectancy, and money appears swiftly, for their resistance is gone. Wealth is not a prize for toil, it is a reflection of belief. It comes not from pressure, but from peace. To live in peace is to walk in the assurance that everything needed is already present in the unseen. To live in peace is to know that money is already flowing, and only the walls of resistance stand in its way. Release the walls, and the current rushes in. Release the fear, and the abundance arrives. Release the doubt, and the promise becomes visible. Doing less in fear creates lack. Resting in faith creates abundance. Many people mistake inactivity for trust, yet their hearts are filled with doubt. They refuse to act, not because they are still in faith, but because fear has paralyzed them. This is not the stillness that brings wealth, this is the stagnation that keeps lack alive. Fearful hesitation closes doors that faith would open wide. The one who waits in fear is like a farmer who hides his seeds, too afraid to plant them, and then wonders why no harvest comes. Fear shrinks, fear withholds, fear delays. Fear convinces the mind that safety lies in doing nothing, yet in truth, it only multiplies emptiness. When fear is the master, every step is shaky, every word is uncertain, every decision is clouded. Money cannot flow into such a state, for lack attracts more lack, and hesitation draws more delay. Fear, even in silence, sends a signal to the universe that says, "I do not trust my supply." And so, the universe answers accordingly. But resting in faith is different. Rest in faith is not the laziness of despair, but the confidence of abundance. It is the calm knowing that what is unseen is already working on your behalf. Faith rests because it knows the outcome is settled. Faith does not struggle, faith does not chase, faith does not bargain, it simply allows. In that rest, power gathers, doors open, and provision flows like water released from a dam. Doing less in fear comes from doubt. Resting in faith comes from trust. Outwardly, both may appear the same, stillness, inactivity, waiting, but inwardly, they are worlds apart. One says, "I cannot move because nothing will work." The other says, "I do not need to force because everything is already working." One leads to lack, the other to abundance. Consider the tree. It does not strain or labor, it rests in its soil, its roots deep in unseen strength. Through this resting, fruit appears in season without struggle. Faith is the same. When you rest in it, your abundance grows naturally, without forcing, without rushing, without fear. The harvest is inevitable because the root is planted in trust. Those who rest in faith are guided to perfect action at the perfect time. They may appear still, yet when the moment comes, they move with clarity and power. They are not driven by panic, but by divine timing. One word spoken in faith carries more power than 1,000 actions taken in fear. One step made with trust will open doors that frantic striving could never touch. Fear clutches tightly, believing it must save itself. Faith opens the hand, allowing the current to bring more. Fear holds on to the little, afraid to release it. Faith releases freely, knowing that giving multiplies. Fear buries talents in the ground. Faith invests them and watches them grow. Doing less in fear is stagnation. Resting in faith is creation. Doing less in fear blocks the channels of supply. Resting in faith opens them wide. Fear is heavy and drains the spirit. Faith is light and lifts the spirit into alignment with infinite supply. Every heart must choose between these two stillnesses, the stillness of fear or the stillness of faith. The first creates delay and lack. The second draws abundance and joy. The difference is not in how much you do, but in the spirit with which you wait. To rest in fear is to starve. To rest in faith is to feast. The law responds not to anxious inaction, but to calm assurance. In that assurance, wealth appears, peace abides, and life unfolds in perfect order. The universe responds to calm expectation, not anxious striving. Many believe that if they run faster, push harder, and demand louder, life will finally grant them what they seek. Yet the truth is the opposite. The universe is not moved by restless noise. It is not persuaded by desperation. It listens to the quiet command of calm faith, the steady vibration of inner certainty, the quiet expectation that what is asked for has already been given. Anxious striving sends out the signal of lack. It declares, I do not have it yet. I must fight for it. I must chase it, or it will escape me. In this state, every action is born from fear. The words may sound like faith, but the energy is heavy with doubt. And so, the universe answers back with more waiting, more delay, more proof of the very lack that the heart is striving to escape. Striving declares separation. Expectation declares union. Calm expectation, on the other hand, is a magnet. It is the posture of one who knows that the unseen is already working in their favor. Calm expectation is not impatient, for it knows timing is always perfect. It does not beg, it does not bargain, it does not plead. It simply rests with the quiet assurance that the promise is already on its way. Just as the farmer waters the soil without anxiety, knowing the harvest is certain, so does the expectant soul wait in peace, knowing abundance is unfolding. The universe is precise. It mirrors not what you say in panic, but what you believe in calmness. Anxious striving blocks the very good it seeks. Calm expectation attracts it with ease. Two people may perform the same action, one hustling, tense, fearful, doubting, and the other calm, relaxed, full of inner certainty. Outwardly, the actions may look alike, but inwardly, the results differ greatly. The anxious one finds delay, the calm one finds doors opening with ease. Consider the child who asks a parent for food. The child does not beg with desperation or panic. The child expects the meal, trusts the provision, and sits at the table knowing it will arrive. That quiet confidence is the very essence of calm expectation. And the universe, like a loving parent, responds not to anxious tears, but to trusting assurance. The anxious striver is always waiting for proof before resting. The calm expectant rests first, and proof follows. This is the great reversal that many miss. Faith rests before the manifestation. Fear demands manifestation before it rests. One delays the blessing, the other invites it swiftly. Calm expectation is the invisible invitation that abundance cannot resist. It is a frequency, a silent decree, a law in action. The universe always answers the vibration of calm assurance, for it is the vibration of truth. Anxious striving, no matter how loud, cannot rewrite that law. Only when the heart is calm, only when the mind is steady, only when the spirit is assured does the flow of supply move without obstruction. Letting go is the most powerful form of action. At first, it seems like a contradiction. How can releasing be an action? How can surrendering hold more power than striving? Yet the laws of spirit operate differently from the laws of struggle. What the world calls weakness, the unseen calls strength. What the world sees as giving up, the divine law sees as opening up. Letting go is not abandoning your desire, it is releasing the grip of fear that strangles it. When you let go, you declare that you trust the unseen forces to complete what you cannot. You step back from the illusion that everything depends on your own hands and allow the higher order to move. Holding too tightly to a desire creates resistance. It is like clutching a bird so firmly that you crush its wings. Letting go allows the bird to fly, and yet it returns to you freely. The mind that refuses to let go is a mind trapped in control. It believes, if I do not push, it will not happen. If I do not chase, it will escape me. If I do not worry, something will go wrong. This constant grip is not action, but fear disguised as effort. The truth is that worry is the weakest action of all, for it creates only more of what it fears. To let go is to act from strength, for it requires trust, courage, and vision beyond what the eye can see. Letting go clears the path for miracles. Imagine a clenched hand trying to receive a gift. The tighter the fist, the less room there is for anything new. Only when the hand is opened in release can it receive abundance. So it is with the heart and the mind. When they are clenched with fear, doubt, and control, no blessing can enter. But when they are opened through letting go, supply rushes in. Letting go is not laziness. It is not careless neglect. It is the highest form of alignment. When you let go, you are saying, the work is done, the seed is planted, the soil will bring forth the harvest. No farmer digs up the seed each morning to check if it is growing. He releases it to the earth, knowing that his letting go is what guarantees the harvest. So it is with every desire. Speak it, affirm it, believe it, and then let it go. When you let go, you stop interfering with the law at work. The law of supply does not need your panic. It does not need your desperate adjustments. It only requires your steady word and your calm trust. Each time you cling to the outcome, you interrupt the process. Each time you release it, you speed the unfolding. Letting go is the most powerful form of action because it shifts the responsibility from your limited strength to the unlimited strength of spirit. You may only see one path, but the universe holds 1,000 ways to deliver. You may only imagine one solution, but the law has endless resources. When you cling to your own limited vision, you block the infinite. When you let go, you invite the infinite to act. The ones who let go are the ones who live in ease. They are not bound to every detail, not enslaved to every turn. They trust that all things are unfolding for their good. They do not chase, they attract. They do not grasp, they receive. They walk with lightness, and in that lightness, life bends to their favor. Letting go is the true act of faith. It is the declaration that you no longer live by sight, but by trust. It is the release of fear, the surrender of control, the yielding of doubt. And in that yielding, power is born. Wealth is drawn to peace, not panic. The vibration of panic is the vibration of lack, and lack repels abundance. When the mind is restless, when the heart is trembling, when every thought is filled with worry, the channels of supply close. It is as if the door of prosperity is bolted shut by fear. No matter how hard one knocks, the door does not open. Panic is a signal to the universe that says, I do not trust the flow. I believe in chaos, not in order. I believe in loss, not in gain. And the universe, faithful to its law, mirrors that belief back in experience. Peace, however, is the natural magnet of wealth. Peace says, I am provided for, I am secure, I am aligned with infinite supply. Peace does not hurry, peace does not beg, peace does not chase. It rests in quiet confidence, knowing that all things are moving in divine order. When the spirit is calm, opportunities appear without struggle. When the heart is still, guidance comes without confusion. Wealth gravitates toward the vibration of peace, for peace is the language of abundance. Panic always tries to force. It grasps at quick solutions. It rushes into poor choices. It clutches what little it has out of fear of losing it. Panic spends energy wildly and reaps nothing lasting. The panicked soul is like a person thrashing in deep water, exhausting themselves, yet sinking faster. The peaceful soul, by contrast, floats with ease, carried by the current that knows the way. Wealth, like water, flows toward those who float, not those who thrash. Peace opens the door for right action. It is not idle or careless, it is stillness filled with wisdom. The peaceful heart is alert, yet untroubled. It acts at the right time, speaks the right word, and meets the right person. The panicked heart, blinded by fear, cannot see these openings. Panic drowns the voice of intuition. Peace makes it clear and unmistakable. Wealth is drawn to peace because peace is trust. Trust creates an atmosphere of expectancy, and expectancy pulls prosperity into form. Just as a calm seed in good soil will grow naturally into a tree, so does peace create the fertile ground for wealth to appear. Panic is like pulling the seed from the soil each day to check if it is sprouting. In doing so, growth is destroyed. Peace plants the seed once and waters it gently, knowing the harvest is certain. When you are at peace, you carry yourself differently. Your words are steady, your tone is sure, your decisions are guided by wisdom, not fear. People sense this energy. Opportunities are drawn to it. Money itself responds to it. Peace has a frequency that resonates with order, and wealth is order expressed in material form. Panic scatters energy, but peace gathers it into manifestation. The one who panics may work endlessly and see little fruit. Their hands may be busy, but their spirit is blocked. The one who lives in peace may do less and receive more, for their inner state is aligned with abundance. Wealth comes easily to the peaceful because they are not resisting it with fear. They do not chase it away with worry. They hold the door open with calm assurance, and wealth enters gladly. Panic is the language of disbelief. Peace is the language of faith. The universe does not respond to noise but to vibration, and the vibration of peace is the sound of wealth already present, waiting to be revealed. The invisible forces are at work when you stop forcing outcomes. Life is not moved by restless hands or anxious hearts. The laws that govern abundance do not bend to panic or pressure. They move in silence, in certainty, in perfect timing. When you are pushing, grasping, demanding, you step into struggle. You interfere with the natural unfolding of what is already making its way toward you. The moment you release the urge to control, the invisible goes to work on your behalf. Invisible forces are always present. They are arranging, guiding, aligning, and preparing. You may not see them with your eyes, but you can feel them with your spirit. They whisper in intuition. They appear as sudden ideas. They reveal themselves in coincidences that are not coincidences at all. But when you are consumed with forcing outcomes, you drown out their voice. You block their work with your own frantic effort. The one who forces outcomes believes that nothing will happen unless they make it happen. Their vision is limited to their own strength, their own connections, their own ability. Yet the universe is infinitely larger than any personal plan. It has endless channels of supply, endless ways to deliver, endless paths to fulfillment. By forcing outcomes, you confine yourself to the narrowness of your own imagination. By letting go, you allow the vastness of the unseen to move in ways you could not predict. Forcing is born of fear. It says, if I stop, it will fall apart. If I let go, it will not come. If I relax, I will lose everything. Faith, however, knows the opposite. Faith says, when I release, life continues to work for me. When I stop pressing, the way opens. When I rest, the law acts. To rest in faith is not inactivity, it is alignment with the greater power that never ceases its motion. Think of the seed buried in the soil. Once planted, it does not need you to dig it up each day to check its progress. In fact, such interference destroys its growth. The seed needs darkness, stillness, trust. The invisible work of roots and sprouts occurs without your sight. So, it is with every desire. Once planted through word and belief, it must be left alone to grow. When you stop forcing, the invisible forces begin to build the roots of manifestation. Invisible forces are like the current beneath the surface of the ocean. Though unseen, they carry ships across vast waters. The sailor does not fight the current, but works with it, letting it carry him where the wind and tide already lead. In the same way, when you stop resisting and forcing, you feel the current of life guiding you. Doors open naturally, opportunities arise without struggle, the right people appear at the right time. Every act of forcing creates tension. Tension sends the signal of mistrust, and mistrust delays the flow. Every act of release creates relaxation. Relaxation is faith expressed, and faith speeds the flow. The invisible responds to vibration, not to struggle. It does not need your frantic push. It needs your calm cooperation. The greatest breakthroughs often come after surrender. How many times have ideas arrived when you finally stepped away? How often has the solution appeared once you stopped obsessing over the problem? This is no accident. The invisible forces begin their work when your interference ends. Clarity is born in stillness, not in striving. Provision comes through rest, not through panic. The unseen has a wisdom that the seen cannot comprehend. While you are trying to arrange one outcome, the invisible is preparing something greater. While you are worried about how, the invisible is aligning the perfect way. While you are pressing for answers, the invisible is writing a better story than you imagined. And all of it happens the moment you stop forcing and allow the unseen to act. Action from anxiety blocks, action from trust multiplies. Outwardly, both look the same. Both are movement, both are effort, both are choices made in the world. Yet the spirit behind them determines the result. The same action can either open the floodgates of abundance or shut them tight, depending on whether it springs from fear or from faith. Anxious action is restless. It is born from the belief that something is missing, that time is running out, that one must scramble to hold everything together. It is not action guided by wisdom, but action driven by panic. Every word, every step, every decision is tainted by the vibration of fear, and fear creates more of itself. Instead of opening doors, anxious action slams them shut. Instead of clearing the path, it builds walls of delay. Action from trust is different. It does not rush, it does not strain, it does not push against the tide, it flows, it arises naturally, like the bloom of a flower at the right season. When action comes from trust, it carries the weight of divine timing. It is precise, effortless, powerful. One word spoken in trust carries more influence than 1,000 words spoken in anxiety. One step taken in trust moves mountains that anxious striving cannot even touch. Anxious action tries to control outcomes. It says, if I do not do this now, nothing will happen. If I do not fix it, it will fall apart. If I do not push harder, it will all slip away. This mindset places everything on one's own limited shoulders and cuts off the flow of unseen assistance. It is like rowing frantically against the current, exhausting yourself and going nowhere. The harder the struggle, the tighter the block becomes. Trusting action, however, invites the invisible to work alongside you. It says, I know the way is prepared. I know the doors are already open. I know my steps are guided. This assurance releases tension, and in that release, energy multiplies. You take fewer steps, but each step produces greater results. You speak less, but your words reach farther. You move calmly, and yet everything around you moves into place. Action from anxiety drains energy. The body tires quickly, the mind grows clouded, the spirit feels heavy. Even if results come, they do not last, for they were built on shaky ground. But action from trust renews energy. It feels light, clear, and steady. Each task strengthens instead of weakens. Results built on trust endure, for they are aligned with the law of abundance. Anxious action often creates the very outcome it fears. The one who rushes into a decision out of panic finds regret. The one who forces a door open discovers it was never meant for them. Anxiety leads to waste, delay, and struggle. Trusting action, on the other hand, creates multiplication. What begins small grows larger. What is planted in calm expectation brings a harvest greater than imagined. Trust allows increase, for increase is natural when fear is absent. Every moment offers a choice, to act in anxiety or to act in trust. The outer action may look the same, but the inner source determines the fruit. The anxious buyer, the anxious seller, the anxious worker all block their own flow. The trusting buyer, the trusting seller, the trusting worker all multiply their flow. The vibration of trust cannot help but attract more, while the vibration of anxiety cannot help but repel. To act from trust is to align with the invisible law. It is to move not from desperation, but from knowing. It is to let the unseen multiply your effort until one action becomes many, until one seed becomes a field, until one step becomes a journey already completed. Silence is a magnet for divine ideas. The world is noisy, and the mind often reflects that same noise. Thoughts race, worries echo, fears argue, and doubts crowd the inner space. In such noise, The still, small voice of guidance is drowned out. Ideas that could change everything are missed because they require stillness to be heard. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be received. Divine ideas are not born in chaos. They come like whispers, gentle impressions, quiet nudges that only reveal themselves in calm. The mind that is constantly busy cannot catch them, for it is too occupied with its own chatter. But the mind that grows quiet becomes like a clear lake, reflecting inspiration from the unseen. In silence, the magnetic pull of spirit begins to draw ideas that cannot be found in books, classes, or endless discussions. They arrive from a higher place, tailored to your path, your timing, your need. Many believe they must struggle for solutions. They force their minds to think harder, to analyze longer, to search desperately. Yet this is striving, and striving closes the channel. The greatest breakthroughs often come not in the midst of effort, but in the pause after effort. How often has clarity arrived in the stillness of a walk, in the quiet of the night, in the simple act of being rather than doing? This is no accident. Silence is the womb where divine ideas are conceived. When you enter silence, you are not abandoning action, you are aligning with the source of right action. Silence is the resting place where guidance forms. It is the space where the next step is revealed, not through panic, but through peace. In silence, the tangled threads of confusion begin to unravel, and what once seemed complicated becomes simple. The idea comes, and with it, the power to carry it out. Silence magnetizes ideas because silence is trust. To be silent is to say, I do not need to force, I will wait, and I will listen. That waiting is faith in action. It is the recognition that wisdom does not come from constant motion, but from alignment with the infinite. In that alignment, answers rise effortlessly. The magnet of silence draws to it the exact thought needed at the exact time. Divine ideas carry a different weight than ordinary thoughts. They come with clarity, with certainty, with energy. An ordinary idea requires pushing, convincing, struggling. A divine idea flows with ease, opening doors and gathering support as though creation itself is eager to see it manifest. But divine ideas only come when the channel is clear, and silence is what clears the channel. The one who cultivates silence walks with an unseen advantage. While others panic and strive, they wait and receive. While others tire themselves with endless motion, they move with precision, guided by inspiration rather than anxiety. The silent heart is never empty, for it draws from the inexhaustible storehouse of wisdom. Every invention, every solution, every work of art, every business, every breakthrough that has blessed humanity began as a divine idea received in some form of silence. Silence does not always mean the absence of sound. It is an inner state, a calmness of spirit, a quieting of worry and noise. One can sit in silence in a busy room if the heart is still. One can be surrounded by activity and yet dwell in peace. It is this inner silence that magnetizes divine ideas. It is this inner stillness that turns the mind into a receiver of truth. When silence becomes a practice, ideas begin to flow naturally. Guidance comes at the right moment. The path becomes clearer. The right people are drawn. The right opportunities appear. The silence within becomes a magnet, pulling to you the very thought that unlocks abundance, peace, and perfect direction. Money comes when the door of worry is closed. Worry is a thief that stands at the entrance of abundance and blocks its way. Every anxious thought, every restless doubt, every fearful imagining becomes a lock on the door of prosperity. You may pray, you may affirm, you may work endlessly, but if worry still holds the key, the door remains shut. Worry is not harmless, it is powerful, for it declares mistrust in the unseen law of supply. The one who worries imagines loss before it happens. They rehearse failure in their minds until it feels real. They speak lack with their lips until it takes form. Worry is creative, but it creates the very opposite of what is desired. It tells the universe, I expect trouble, I expect delay, I expect disappointment. And the universe, faithful to its law, reflects that expectation. Worry attracts what is feared just as surely as faith attracts what is desired. When the door of worry is closed, money flows freely. To close the door is to say, I will not entertain lack in my mind. I will not rehearse fear in my imagination. I will not speak against my own prosperity. It is a conscious act of faith, a decision to shut out every thought that denies abundance. When the mind is quiet from worry, the space is clear for supply to enter. Money does not flow into a restless heart. It flows into the heart that is still, confident, assured. Worry shakes the foundation, but faith steadies it. The door of prosperity is opened by words of peace, by thoughts of sufficiency, by images of increase. Closing the door of worry is not ignoring reality. It is creating a new reality through belief. Consider the house with open doors at night. If fear is allowed in, it invites thieves and trouble. But when the door is shut and locked, peace remains inside. So it is with the heart. When the door of worry is open, lack and anxiety enter freely. When the door is closed, abundance is protected and invited. The act of closing the door is inward. It is the discipline of thought. When the mind begins to wander into fear, you bring it back. When your lips begin to speak lack, you correct them with words of plenty. Each time you choose faith over fear, you are shutting the door tighter. Each time you speak peace over panic, you are securing the lock. Eventually, worry finds no entrance, and money begins to flow without resistance. Money is sensitive to vibration. It responds to peace, to gratitude, to expectation. It resists fear, anxiety, and doubt. Just as a plant grows best in calm soil and steady sunlight, so money grows best in an atmosphere free of worry. The more peaceful the environment of your mind, the faster prosperity takes root. Worry never adds, it only subtracts. It robs energy, weakens vision, clouds decisions. Many chase after wealth with restless minds, only to find it slipping further away. But those who learn to quiet their hearts, who refuse to open the door to fear, discover that wealth comes quietly, steadily, and with ease. Closing the door of worry is not a one-time act, but a daily practice. Each morning, you choose peace. Each evening, you release fear. Each moment, you return to the truth that you are provided for, that supply is infinite, that nothing can be withheld. In this state, the door remains closed to worry and wide open to abundance. The effortless attracts the effortless. Life was never meant to be lived as a constant struggle, for struggle itself is a magnet for more struggle. What is forced carries a weight that draws more burdens. What is done with ease opens the way for more ease. The law of attraction reflects the inner state, and if the inner state is effortless, the outer results follow in the same manner. Effortlessness is not laziness, it is alignment. It is the state in which thought, word, and action flow in harmony with the unseen order of the universe. When one moves in faith rather than fear, the path clears, doors open, and opportunities arise without strain. This is why those who work from a place of inspiration seem to accomplish more with less. Their efforts are not heavy, for they are carried by a current greater than themselves. The effortless attracts the effortless because like draws to like. A mind that is tense will create tense experiences. A spirit that is restless will attract restless circumstances. But the one who carries peace within magnetizes peaceful outcomes. Money, relationships, and success are drawn to the one who does not chase, but allows. The energy of allowing is effortless, and it calls to itself experiences of the same nature. When a river flows, it does not force its way forward. It moves naturally, following its course, yet it carves valleys and shapes landscapes. Its power lies in its flow, not in strain. So too with life. The effortless current of trust and faith is stronger than the hardest push born of anxiety. To align with this current is to move into a rhythm where results appear without struggle. Many believe that only through endless striving can abundance be gained. They push, they hurry, they labor with clenched fists. Yet this energy repels ease, for it declares to the universe, I must struggle, and nothing comes without pain. And so the universe echoes back more obstacles, more barriers, more resistance. But those who move with grace, who act from calm, who allow inspiration to lead, discover that life answers them with ease. Effortlessness carries a magnetic quality because it is rooted in trust. When you trust, you release the need to control every detail. You take action, but the action is light, not heavy. You plan, but the plan is flexible, not rigid. You walk forward, but without panic, knowing the way is already prepared. This energy creates open space for blessings to flow in. The effortless also attracts support. People are drawn to those who embody ease, for ease inspires confidence. When you move calmly, others feel safe around you. When you create without strain, others want to participate in your vision. Just as stress repels, peace attracts. The magnetic power of effortlessness does not only affect circumstances, it affects people, drawing to you those who help the effortless unfold. In nature, everything follows this law. Flowers bloom without forcing, birds fly without doubting, the sun rises without struggle. Nothing is hurried, yet everything is accomplished. When a person learns to mirror this natural rhythm, they become part of the same effortless unfolding. Their wealth, their opportunities, their ideas, their connections all flow into place without excessive strain. The effortless attracts the effortless because it is the language of the divine. It is the signal of alignment, the proof of trust, the evidence of faith. The more one leans into ease, the more ease surrounds them. The more one releases struggle, the more graceful life becomes. Each step taken in peace calls forth another step equally free. Each action rooted in calm creates a result that carries the same calmness. Your word is law. Speak prosperity once, then let it unfold. The spoken word is not a mere sound. It is a decree that carries power into the unseen. Every word sets in motion a chain of events, for speech is thought clothed in vibration, and vibration creates form. To speak prosperity is to summon it from the invisible into the visible. But the power does not lie in repeating endlessly with doubt. The power lies in speaking once with faith, knowing the word is law. When a seed is planted in the soil, the gardener does not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. The seed once placed is trusted to take root and rise. So it is with the word spoken in faith. It does not need to be repeated anxiously, for the law is already set in motion. The soil of the universe holds the seed of your word, and it grows quietly until the time of harvest. To speak prosperity once is to declare it boldly, without wavering. It is to say, I am provided for, I am wealthy, I am surrounded by abundance. And then it is to release the declaration, resting in the certainty that the law does not return void. The law does not question, does not doubt, does not delay. It obeys the word spoken in faith. When one speaks prosperity, but then contradicts it with worry, the soil is disturbed, the seed is shaken, the growth is hindered. Words of fear cancel words of faith. To declare prosperity once and then allow anxious words to follow is to send mixed instructions to the universe. But when the word is spoken and then left to unfold, it draws to itself the conditions needed for manifestation. Your word is law because it comes from the authority of spirit. It carries the imprint of belief, and belief is creative. Every decree becomes a blueprint for reality. Those who speak poverty with conviction see poverty unfold. Those who declare lack and repeat it daily experience more lack. The universe takes every word as instruction and molds reality to match it. This is why speaking prosperity is not a game of endless affirmations, but a matter of conviction. The tone of certainty carries more power than 1,000 anxious repetitions. A single word rooted in faith outweighs many words rooted in fear. The vibration of belief cannot be denied, and once released, it travels outward, attracting the form of prosperity to its source. Letting the word unfold is the practice of trust. It is the refusal to interfere with the law once it is set in motion. It is resting, knowing that just as the sun rises without your effort, so too does your decree bring forth results without your constant interference. To let it unfold is to dwell in peace, to expect without grasping, to allow without forcing. The law is impartial. It does not choose what to honor, it honors all words spoken with conviction. This is why the one who complains creates more to complain about, while the one who blesses sees more blessings. The word of prosperity must therefore be chosen carefully, spoken intentionally, and then left untouched, like a seed that grows when left in stillness. Your word is law. Speak it once with clarity, with boldness, with faith, and know that unseen forces carry it forward. The invisible responds to the command of the spoken word, arranging, shifting, and aligning until the visible reflects what was declared. Speak prosperity and then rest, for the law already knows its path. Money flows to the heart that trusts the unseen. The material world is only a reflection of the invisible, and the invisible is shaped by faith. Wealth does not begin in the bank, it begins in the heart. When the heart leans into trust, without fear, without desperation, it becomes a magnet for supply. The unseen is the true source, and money is only one of its many expressions. The unseen is infinite. It cannot run dry. The heart that trusts it knows that provision comes not from one job, one person, or one channel, but from the boundless reservoir of spirit. When the heart is fixed on trust, it does not tremble when one door closes, for it knows another is already opening. The unseen is always working, arranging, aligning, guiding. Trust is the signal that allows one to receive. When the heart clings to fear, it blocks the flow. Fear says, "There is not enough." Fear says, "I must struggle to survive." Fear closes the gate of abundance, for it looks only at appearances. But trust lifts the eyes beyond appearances, seeing the invisible supply that moves underneath all things. Money flows to the heart that trusts, because trust opens the channels that fear closes. Consider how water flows. It follows the path of least resistance. It does not push against walls. It finds the open space. So it is with money. It flows where there is openness, and openness is born of trust. A heart hardened with doubt creates resistance, but a heart soft with faith creates a channel wide and clear. The unseen responds to trust the way water responds to gravity. It moves without effort toward the open vessel. Trust is not passive. It is not the absence of action, but the presence of calm action. A trusting heart works, but without panic. It takes steps, but without haste. It speaks words of faith, not fear. It spends without dread and gives without clinging, for it knows the unseen always replenishes. The energy of trust carries a quiet authority that attracts money, opportunities, and ideas with effortless grace. The unseen cannot be measured by human sight, yet its effects are undeniable. Every invention, every discovery, every great work first lived in the unseen before it appeared in form. The same is true of prosperity. It begins as faith within the heart. When the heart trusts, it plants a seed in the invisible field, and that seed draws to itself the resources to bloom. Money flows to the heart that trusts the unseen because the unseen honors faith. Faith acts as the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It declares, "I am provided for, though I cannot yet see how." That declaration shifts the atmosphere, and what was hidden begins to take shape. Doors open, people arrive, ideas spark, all because the unseen responds to the vibration of trust. The heart that trusts is not shaken by delays. It does not surrender to doubt when the answer tarries, for it knows timing belongs to the higher order. To trust the unseen is to believe that supply is already moving, though not yet visible. The trust itself becomes a magnet, drawing money in ways the mind could not calculate. Money is energy, and energy seeks alignment. It does not flow into chaos or fear for long, but it naturally gravitates toward harmony. A trusting heart creates harmony, a steady rhythm, a signal that wealth can safely rest here. Money flows into that trust, not because of force, but because trust itself is the fertile ground where prosperity thrives. The pause is where miracles enter. In the stillness between effort and outcome, the unseen does its work. Life is not a constant stream of striving. It is a rhythm of movement and rest, of speaking and silence, of giving and receiving. The pause is not empty space. It is sacred ground where the invisible rearranges circumstances beyond human control. Many live in fear of the pause, believing that silence means nothing is happening. They rush, they push, they force, afraid that stillness will lead to lack. Yet it is in the pause that true power gathers. Just as the soil cradles the seed in quiet darkness before the sprout breaks through, so the pause shelters the miracle before it appears in sight. The pause is faith expressed. It is the decision to rest after the word has been spoken, the prayer has been offered, the action has been taken. It says, "I trust that what I have set in motion is already moving toward me." This trust allows the unseen to work without interference. When the pause is honored, the miracle finds its entrance, flowing with grace instead of struggle. Consider the breath. Inhale and exhale are the movements of life, but between them lies a pause. That pause carries the power of renewal. It is a silent space, yet without it, the rhythm would collapse. So it is with life and miracles. The pause is not absence but balance, the resting point that allows the flow to continue. Those who fear the pause often exhaust themselves. They chase after outcomes, unwilling to rest, unwilling to release. But miracles do not arrive by force, they arrive by invitation. The pause is the invitation. It is the open door left unguarded, the silent welcome that allows the unseen to enter without resistance. The pause is surrender, but surrender is not defeat. Surrender is alignment with the greater order. It is the recognition that human strength has limits, but divine orchestration has none. In the pause, one steps back so that the infinite may step forward. This stepping aside is where miracles are born, not from exhaustion, but from trust. The pause is a bridge between asking and receiving. It allows space for the answer to form, for the unseen to weave together the threads of provision, timing, and opportunity. When one honors the pause, one acknowledges that miracles do not need micromanagement. They need space to unfold. Just as music is not only the notes, but the silence between them, miracles are shaped in the quiet intervals of waiting. In the pause, clarity arrives. An anxious mind cannot perceive solutions, but a still heart can hear whispers from the unseen. Ideas rise in silence, guidance comes in rest, and new paths are revealed without struggle. The pause opens the channel for divine intelligence to speak, for the miracle to be recognized when it appears. The pause also holds power because it resets energy. The heart at rest attracts differently than the heart in panic. Panic pushes away. Peace draws near. The pause creates peace, and peace creates alignment. Money, health, opportunities, and love, all forms of abundance, respond more readily to the energy of calm trust than to frantic pursuit. The pause is where miracles enter because it is the space unclouded by human control. It is the place where the seen steps aside and the unseen takes command. In that stillness, circumstances shift, doors open, and blessings arrive in ways the mind could not have calculated. The pause, far from being nothing, is the silent stage upon which miracles make their entrance. Do nothing but believe, and the current of wealth carries you. The greatest effort is not in grasping, forcing, or chasing, but in releasing the struggle and resting in certainty. Belief is the silent engine that moves unseen forces, aligning circumstances, people, and opportunities to carry you forward. The current is already flowing. Belief allows you to step into it without resistance. To believe is to stand still in faith while the world around you rushes with anxiety and doubt. Belief does not mean inaction, it means action rooted in calm assurance rather than frantic striving. When you believe, you do not scramble for crumbs, for you know the banquet is already set. You do not chase after wealth, for you know wealth is drawn to belief like metal to a magnet. The current of wealth is always present. Some fight against it with fear, thrashing in doubt and drowning in lack. Others surrender to it with trust, and it carries them with ease. The current is unseen but undeniable. Belief is the boat, the vessel that keeps one afloat, allowing the flow to do the work. The moment belief is surrendered, the vessel sinks and struggle begins. Belief is power because it is alignment with the unseen order. The mind may say, "I see no evidence," but belief answers, "Evidence will appear in its time." To believe is to choose trust over appearances, to anchor in the invisible rather than the visible. Wealth responds not to desperation, but to assurance, not to doubt, but to conviction. When the heart rests in belief, doors swing open with little effort. Do nothing but believe does not mean idleness. It means resting the anxious mind while allowing inspired action to arise naturally. A believing heart does not sit in despair, waiting for rescue. It moves when guided, speaks when prompted, gives when called, but all without fear. This kind of action flows like water, effortless and multiplied by the current. Striving without belief creates exhaustion, but small actions taken with belief create abundance. The current of wealth is not something you create. It already exists. It has always been moving, just as rivers move toward the sea. You do not need to push the river, you need only enter it. Belief is the act of stepping into that river without hesitation. The current then carries you farther than you could walk alone. Opportunities appear, resources align, people arrive, all as if summoned by an unseen hand. Many exhaust themselves by clinging to the shore of doubt, refusing to release the grip of control. They say, "I will only believe once I see." Yet sight is the final stage, not the beginning. Belief is the seed, and manifestation is the harvest. To demand harvest without planting belief is to demand fruit without planting a tree. But when belief is planted, the unseen takes root and wealth flows like branches heavy with fruit. Do nothing but believe is the highest form of surrender. It is the recognition that human effort, while necessary, is not the source of wealth. The source is invisible, infinite, inexhaustible. When the heart believes, it taps into this endless supply. The current of wealth then becomes not something to chase, but something that carries you, like a tide lifting a ship without strain. Belief makes you buoyant. It lifts you above worry, above panic, above the illusion of lack. A heart weighed with doubt sinks, but a heart filled with belief rises. In that rising, wealth finds its way naturally. Money flows, opportunities open, ideas spark, not because you forced them, but because you aligned with the current. Do nothing but believe, and the wealth that is already moving in the unseen becomes visible in your life. Faith is the only action required when all else has been spoken. Once the prayer has left your lips, once the word of prosperity has been declared, there is nothing more to be done in the outer world but to trust. To continue speaking fear, to keep rehearsing doubt, is to undo the very decree you have made. Faith is the seal, the sacred silence that protects the spoken word until it manifests. Every word carries energy, and when words of faith and abundance are spoken, they are sent forth like arrows into the unseen. They move, they arrange, they call into order the circumstances that align with them. But words require the shelter of faith to complete their journey. Without faith, words scatter like seeds cast into the wind. With faith, words take root and their harvest becomes inevitable. Faith is not a passive thing. It is the strongest form of action because it refuses to bend to appearances. To believe after you have spoken is to hold steady when the visible world seems to contradict your decree. It is to stand firm when circumstances whisper the opposite of what you declared. This steadiness is not weakness, it is power. It is the inner action that anchors the outer outcome. When faith is chosen after the word has been spoken, you step out of struggle and into alignment. The spoken word is the command, but faith is the soldier that ensures the command is carried out. To speak without faith is like lighting a lamp and then covering it with darkness. The light exists, but it is smothered. Faith uncovers the lamp, allowing it to shine and draw what belongs to it. Faith is the silence after the prayer. It does not argue, it does not beg, it does not doubt. Faith rests in the certainty that the unseen has already answered. It is the stillness of the farmer who, after planting the seed, does not dig it up each day to check its progress. He knows that unseen forces are at work beneath the soil. So it is with faith. It trusts that what has been spoken is already unfolding in its perfect time. Those who lack faith exhaust themselves in repetition. They pray again and again, thinking that volume will bring speed. But words spoken without faith are like echoes in a hollow cave, sound without substance. Faith gives the word weight, power, and authority. Faith says once is enough, for the universe has heard, and the unseen has received the command. Faith also protects against interference. When doubt arises, faith shields the word from decay. It says, "What I declared is mine, regardless of appearances." When fear attempts to invade, faith is the guardian at the door, refusing entry. Faith requires no outward fight, for its power is inward. It dissolves the need for constant striving by resting in the truth that the word spoken already carries the power of fulfillment. Faith is the final action because it removes the illusion of control. It hands the outcome to the unseen, trusting that the invisible knows the path better than human reason. To live in faith is to live in freedom. It is to release worry, anxiety, and restless striving. Once the word has been spoken, faith completes the work by keeping the channel open. Without faith, the word is left suspended. With faith, the word finds its landing. Faith is the bridge between the word and its manifestation. It is the assurance that the command has already been carried out in the invisible, and it is only a matter of time before the visible confirms it. To speak is powerful, but to believe after speaking is the highest action. Faith is the only action required when all else has been spoken. Faith, then, is not weakness, but mastery. It is the quiet command that stands after all words have been spoken, the invisible force that carries them into form. To live by faith is to walk with assurance even when the path is unseen, to rest in knowing that your decree is already fulfilled. The word is the seed, and faith is the soil that nurtures it until it blossoms into reality. When you speak with conviction and hold with faith, you align with the laws of the unseen that never fail.